All right, I had a few minutes. I thought I'd tackle, make sure that's the right camera. Yeah, okay. I have a few minutes to tackle a quick, it's not quick, dude. It's a big ol' LinkedIn post from this lady, Alex Cottoni. And I think she's kind of like a more of a copywriter type person, getting out of the frame here. Um, and so Alex wrote these trends for 2025. Let's look at them and let's just consider them because I think some of these are just going to be things that are always true and some of them are going to be things we need to think about a little more. So let's look. So not going to read the whole thing. She has some expletives in here, like because that's super in style. Like what the actual beep. You are not alone, my friend. 2024 was a big year in marketing, that left lots of freelancers and business owners across multiple industries feeling uncertain about the future and absolutely exhausted. Great. Couple of quotes here. Don't care. Does anyone else need a 4-day nap? This is a whole lot of drama. I think we need to stay away from drama. This is just a bunch of. But here's the thing, though, is that I think we can learn from people like this because there might be some truth in here. So I think she counts down. So authentic marketing will win. Customer trust is an all-time low. Wow. Wonder. I don't know. I haven't seen that in our industry, but maybe it's true. I think that audiences today are more skeptical than ever. I don't know. I feel like we've been saying that for years. But hey, yes, there's a study. Studies show 69% of consumers distrust brand advertising. That number is quickly on the rise, probably because it sucks. Probably because the brand advertising sucks. And these big brands are pandering, and nobody trusts a panderer. Nobody wants to hear from somebody who doesn't tell the truth, and we know they don't tell the truth. Turn my coffee up here. When trust falls down, how consumers view brands. Guys, this isn't really, yeah, doy, right? Like we we need to be building trust. That's why we do thought leadership, and some of these things are just too obvious to even say. Yeah, just yeah, they smell off a lack of authenticity. No doy. Okay, personal brands will thrive. One of the reasons we don't trust brands is because they're always all they're trying to do is be politically correct, not take risks, and pander, and it's obvious. It's obvious when with even with politics, we've seen people say one thing and do absolutely the other, right? And it's on the news and they don't care. And people saying, there's one thing about believing things that where there's mixed evidence for like about a person. There's a whole nother thing when we're like, like with the dude with 2020 and COVID, there was a lot of trust lost. I'll just say it. Um, I don't trust you know, pharmaceuticals like I used to. And I used to be like, come on, it's science. Like they're not trying to pull anything. Like when I was in college. Now I'm like, no, we saw it. We saw it right out there with Anthony Fauci saying things that were opposites, just the most untrustworthy individual. And then you wonder, how did he get put in that place? Probably because there's a whole bunch of people around him or around that area that are untrustworthy. And he got this platform because of that. So no wonder we don't. And those brands, those pharmaceutical brands, making all those commercials and trying to relate to us and everything. And I just remember, even in a pharmaceutical brand, this guy, he's like, I was down to talk to my doctor about, whatever. And I'm like, dude, that's my generation. And you did not pull that off. You do not sound like it's kind of like a hello, fellow kids, or whatever it was from, was it Happy Gilmore? No, it was, whatever. What's the other one with him in it? It's going to bother me. Billy Madison. Anyway, personal brands will thrive. Okay, this is interesting. Let's look at why she says this. For all the reasons I mentioned, your customers are literally starving for connection. Okay, yeah, so that's why personal brands will thrive, right? Connection. They're looking for leaders they know, like, and trust who can show them the way. This is going to be a character play. This is going to be one of those reasons that Kamala Harris, or Kamala, however you say it, was on that one girl podcast. She paid a lot of money for it too to get on that podcast because um, she needed that personal brand to connect with, right? So like we might think of Jocko Willink, who's coming under fire. He's a leader, uh, definitely a brand people a lot of guys trust. Jordan Peterson, people like that. On the other side of the aisle, I don't really know who's out there that people trust. Okay, great. I'm already on social media and posting regularly. But there's a catch 2025. We need to go back to the way we used to do social media. What is that, Alex? Remember we used to post our unedited family photos or share real stories? Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I'm doing right now. I don't have a ton of time here. I just want to work through this and I'd rather talk about it with other people and reason it out loud than try to go through it myself and get distracted. Or share real stories. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's good. I also think that leave it. I don't know. Do we leave it to, here's my question. Do we leave it to the influencers to do that and say, okay, influencers, you build your following, you build your people, you show us about your life. We will connect with you up to the extent that you share our values and an understanding of what we do. Then we've completed the loop. Do brands need to do this? I'm not convinced yet. I'd like to hear a case made for that. That is what consumers will want more in 2025. Okay, this is gross. I don't want to see that. Sick. They want to connect with you, not a logo, product, company, or agency in a real, raw, authentic, and relatable way. All right. You, they want to connect with you. So there is opportunity, I think, for especially in professional services or something like that, to be a thought leader. And if you're a thought leader, go lead thought. And be real. I don't know about raw. We want to be professional, but you do want to be interesting, and I think that's the difference. When people talk about raw, they don't know what they're saying. They're throwing this word out there and they haven't thought about it. When we talk about being real, raw, and authentic and relatable, um, we need to be thinking real as in here is what I think about things. For instance, you guys heard me talk about RuPaul and say he's gross, right? You probably know I'm not trying to be politically correct. I'm not trying to please everybody. Um, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of doing this right now uh, because I'm just telling you the truth about the way I see things and the way I make sense of the world. Now, the reason that that can be powerful is that if you're like me and you share my values, and I tell you how to make sense of like marketing, you're probably going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to mostly believe him. I'm going to mostly give him the benefit of the doubt because he shares my values. Like he knows right from wrong, right? Or at least you know shares a lot of that in common with me. Um, Raw, I think is a bad way to say it. I wouldn't choose that word. I would say what we mean by raw is we mean having that authenticity and being who we are, being ourselves, and not being overly produced. It does not mean unprofessional. It does not mean unfocused. It does not mean unhelpful and scattered and ADD. It means, well, I guess there's some I will say there are some people who give an ADD impression, but ultimately you're still listening to them because they do ultimately stick to what they're talking about. It's not like one day I'm going to talk about B2B manufacturing, the next day I'm going to talk about my fascination with puppies and going to the local pound, right? We're not talking about that kind of raw ADD kind of thing. We're talking about, you may have a brand that is ADD, but you're ultimately on topic, right? Those are successful. You can do that, but it depends on your personality. Authentic, I think, yeah, I mean, I think these are all saying the same thing right there, and then you're gonna be relatable to some people. If you're real, raw, and authentic, you're gonna be relatable to some people. Stop trying to please everybody. So I think that's true. I think she doesn't explain it well. I'll admit I lost sight of all this last year because I got too busy in other areas. Became process rather than a meaningful way to connect with my audience. Yeah. Okay. Good. That's some she's doing what she says she should do, which is admit things, right? So more fun, being more real, and posting more personal and playful stuff on my social media. Okay. Remember, people want to know what you do and who you are. Yeah, ultimately, it's a person behind everything. They want to like you, they want to trust you, and it has to be a person attached to that. It can't just be a brand. Let's go to the next one. Micro conversations matter. Okay, what are micro conversations? The metrics that most of us have been concerned with are what we call macro conversions, basically sales. So I think what she's going to say is that the big thing, the sales, is what we're all looking at. That is the ultimate conversion. But what I bet she's going to say is, let's break down the interaction between small things, small steps that people can take to build trust over time. And let's see what, as Google defines this as the messy middle. The messy middle, a space of abundant information and unlimited choice that shoppers have learned to manage using a range of cognitive shortcuts. Don't know what they mean by because consumer trust is at all-time low. They are taking way longer to make a buying decision. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Across the board, after a customer first discovers you, they are not buying right away. Well, not usually. Instead, they are shopping around, evaluating options, and taking their sweet time getting to know you before they buy. Yeah, I'm gonna say there should be an asterisk on this, and it should be that the bigger the buying decision to me, the bigger I perceive this buying decision will be the longer I take. Business to business, which is where I work, that's the industry I work in. It's a longer buying decision. This is absolutely true for B2B. B2C is different. You can be impulsive. You can buy something because you feel like it. But when resources are constrained, when fewer people have money, which I've been hearing lately, in the economy. I mean, this is December of 2024, right? And I'm hearing that I'm hearing from the UPS guy that there are fewer deliveries. They started later because there are fewer people buying. They started adding drivers later in the season, adding staff later in the season because there's people have less money, which is probably makes them more thoughtful buyers. So, which is a space of abundant information and unlimited choice. Basically, it's the complicated web of touch points the customer interacts with between the first trigger and the final purchase decision or sale. Okay, yeah, I understand. What it's saying is it's not a straight funnel. It's not like they show up or they see you on LinkedIn 7 times. On the eighth time, they click, they go to your website or your landing page, they look at it, they sign up for your email list because they're not ready to buy yet, and then after 6 months of seeing your emails, then they buy. That you can come up with some statistics that centralize that process that show you like that's the middle, that's the average interaction, but that messy middle makes it to where the distribution curve is pretty flat, right? And what that means is there there isn't there isn't like one path they take. There's many, and that those many different paths they take are taken more often, and it's not just that one central path. So you may say, for example, you may say the average person between 1 and 10 um, is a five, is a 5.5 or whatever, or five, right? The the but is that 100% of people are at five, or is that everybody's scattered throughout, and so the average is five, and that's a distribution. That's like your normal distribution. All right, I'm running out of time. Let's move on. Let's go through fast. Customer experience is everything. Kale, what? Yes, of course, you can say that. I get what you mean. Unlike other aspects of business, customer experience has the power to improve brand loyalty, customer satisfaction, traffic, and sales all at the same time. You know what I think they're getting at is I think they're getting at trust. The experience builds trust, or it corrodes trust. How do you build trust with your customer experience? Okay, I'm gonna assume that's what she means by that. Start more conversations. Okay, this could be really powerful. Um, okay, so know that people are starving for connection. It means for conversations. Um, The brands that start more conversations earlier will succeed. Okay, so this is really measurable. Let's start those conversations early, particularly probably about hot topics. I'm going to imagine. I'd love to read this more, but I'm not going to. This year is gone and I slacked. I didn't even get a single copywriting job. I want to be better next year. You got this. What's your first step? You got this. Girl talk. Not sure. Maybe I just go back to watching your videos on YouTube, then creating a portfolio. My only problem is that I don't know how to create one. Okay. Um, it always helps. Okay, great. Conversations, good. Get conversations going. Okay, so I think what she's saying is that, hey, look, these conversations happen and I jump in and I help, right? And then it gets her more and more engaged with people. So what I would say about that is start more conversations early. I think that one key thing is just how do we get into conversations about copywriting? Even if you let's say you're a copywriter, like her thing, how do you how do you get conversations going with people? Are you like, I'm not going to waste my time talking to anybody who's not like a good fit? Well, why don't you why don't you change that rule and talk to more people who are more interesting for you? Um, think about people you'd love to work with, but you don't think you can. Start more conversations with them. Don't put pressure on them. Just grow your, you know, don't put pressure on them. Just grow that interaction with them and see where it goes. And then get off the phone and then move on, right? Or get off your whatever chat and then move on. That's all you have to do, right? Um, okay, stories are here to stay. Okay, this is true. I believe that people always only understand story. They don't understand data. If you pick up a dictionary and you see a word that's interesting to you, um, you're browsing through. All right, dictionaries are reference primarily. You open up a dictionary to find a word. So you already have a story going, and finding the answer to that word is part of the story. Even if it's just like, man, I I don't know the definition of this word and I want to know. Um, that's part of the story of who you are and the kinds of things you're interested in. Oh, I'm writing a book and I need to find the meaning of this word and the etymology maybe. Well, the story is you're writing a book. Um, the the only way the dictionary the even if you just pick up the dictionary and said, "Oh, I read it like a book," you open it up and you're looking at you find a word that's interesting to you, and then you look at it. It's probably because it attaches to some other story. There's only one reason you're interested in something, and that traces back to who you are, an experience you've had, or something, because it's a story. So even those things are little tiny stories. And so nobody is like, well, I just want to know, the price of whatever stock because I just want to know it. Just because there's no reason, right? There has to be a story. There has to be a reason. So there's always a reason. And so stories are the only thing people understand. So if you do not connect with them and there's some kind of thing that they have going, then you're not going to have good content. I'd love to read more about what she says. Okay, because I only have a few minutes, the big shift. There are some big shifts happening in the marketing world and they affect everyone. A lot of previously proven models and systems are no longer working. I have much to say. Okay, now she's selling a webinar. The old model is broken. It's time to make some new rules. The shocking ways copywriting is shifting in 2025. Maybe they're shocking. I don't know. Uncensored predictions. So what she's doing here is she's connecting with her audience in a way that her audience understands. Okay, she's a girl. She's connecting to a lot of girls. Some of the stuff's useful for sure, no matter if you're a girl or a boy. But and if you're a business owner, so she's saying if you're a copywriter, so she's hitting her audiences. So this is probably an example of some good content that is following her own rules, which I appreciate. And so check it out. It's the right phrase. Pay marketing trends and predictions for 2025. Alex Cottoni. Nice job, Alex. And we'll talk to you guys later.